Okay, so Super Mario Odyssey is Mario's newest 3D adventure, and in the game you travel to 17 different kingdoms that act as worlds or huge levels. Each kingdom varies in difficulty, size, and art style, making them all really fun to play through. Since Mario Odyssey's release back in October of 2017, there's always been the discussion as to what kingdom people think is the best. And so in this video I'm going to be ranking every single kingdom in Super Mario Odyssey based off purely how fun I found each kingdom. I'll be covering each kingdom pretty quickly as I don't want the video to be 30 minutes long, and obviously the order that I rank the kingdoms in is my opinion, and yours will probably be different, but instead of getting mad, leave a comment letting me know what you disagree with, and with all that said, let's start the video. The Dark Side is number 17 on the list, meaning that I think it's the worst kingdom in the game. The Dark Side acts as a boss run that you can play after you've beaten the main story of the game, and in the boss run you're fighting against each of the Brutals, but seeing as you've already fought against them in previous kingdoms, it just makes for a pretty boring time. The Cloud Kingdom acts kind of like a midpoint in the game, and is actually the first time that you fight Bowser. This fight is really fun and is nothing like other fights of Bowser in other Mario games, but after the boss fight there is basically nothing to do in the kingdom, and I don't even think the game wants you to stay there as there's no soundtrack and there's just not much to look at either, as the kingdom is made entirely up of clouds, which kind of sounds cool on paper, but when executed it doesn't make for the best kingdom. The Ruined Kingdom had the potential to be the coolest and most unique kingdom in the game, but Nintendo decided to make it so that you only fight one pretty easy boss in the kingdom, which I think sucks. You fight this huge dragon that doesn't really make for much of a challenge in this dark and eerie setting that I would have loved to see expanded on, but sadly it ended up being one of the smallest kingdoms in the game. Now that we're done with most of the smaller kingdoms, we're going to start on the larger ones, and the kingdom that I think deserves the 14th spot on the list is the Cap Kingdom. It's the kingdom you start the game in, and it does a great job at teaching you the controls, but other than that, I don't think it's that interesting. Everything from the soundtrack to the graphical style just makes the kingdom thing kinda dead. Although I have got to say that controlling a frog for the first time was a ton of fun, but that got old pretty quickly. Alrighty, for the last small kingdom on the list, we've got the Darker Side. This kingdom acts as one really hard level at the end of the game, and it's both really fun and really rage-inducing, which is why I put it at this spot in the list. Throughout the level you control several different types of enemies and creatures, which makes it so fun. At one point you're controlling a fire dude, then a grass root dude, then Yoshi, and then you become literal forks, and it's really fun until you die and have to restart the entire level over and over again until you want to throw your Joy-Cons at the TV. Now that we're finally done talking about the smaller kingdoms, let's talk about some of the bigger kingdoms. Coming in at 12th on the list, we've got Bowser's Kingdom, which might be a surprise to some of you. The visuals in this kingdom are great and the soundtrack is an absolute bop, but the kingdom just feels so linear, which I don't really like. It feels more like a level in which you have to go from point A to B, rather than open world, which I didn't really enjoy. The Snow Kingdom is next up on the list, and there really is not much to do in this kingdom after you've already beaten it when you're playing through the story. There are two reasons why the Snow Kingdom isn't in the worst spot on the list, with the first being that the soundtrack is just amazing, and the second reason is because of these races known as the Bound Bowls. And in them you race as these marshmallow people who are the natives to the Snow Kingdom, but instead of racing normally, you race by bouncing up and down on the racetrack, which is just a heap of fun, but other than that I feel like Nintendo didn't do the best job at tackling the concept of snow in a 3D Mario level. The Cascade Kingdom is the second kingdom you travel to in the game, and much like the Cap Kingdom, it does a great job at expanding on the controls. But unlike the Cap Kingdom, the Cascade Kingdom isn't depressing and is actually pretty fun. The scenery is gorgeous, the boss fight is unique, and you get to control a freaking T-Rex, which is just amazing. Like, how can someone not like controlling a T-Rex in a Mario game? The Lost Kingdom would be my favorite kingdom in the game if it just weren't so freaking small. The landscape and all of the different creatures in the Lost Kingdom honestly just make it feel like a playground. You can capture Glydon, who's this gliding dinosaur, and then there's these caterpillars that allow you to stretch across platforms. Also, when you're playing through the story and come across this kingdom, Cappy actually gets taken by an eagle, and for the little time that you're without Cappy, it provides a great change of pace and makes you realize how annoying Cappy can be. The fact that you can't capture the eagle after you get Cappy back is a little disappointing, but anyways, the kingdom is still great. I just wish Nintendo expanded on it and made it a bit bigger. This Sand Kingdom is one of the larger kingdoms in the game, and it does a pretty great job at making use of all the space in the kingdom. There's a small town in the center of the kingdom, and then there's a huge upside down floating pyramid that you get to explore. Traveling around the kingdom is also a bunch of fun thanks to the Jaxi, which is a golden lion that takes on the role of being a taxi. This is also where you first encounter Lakitu in the game, and instead of throwing spiders at you, he just wants to chill out and fish, which is just really nice. Also, I nearly forgot, but in this kingdom, the boss fight is just really unique. You fight against this weird stone monster thing, and take control of one of his fists, and essentially make the boss hit itself, which causes him to kill himself, which is just really fun. The Mushroom Kingdom is basically just a huge nod to Mario 64, and I, like everyone else, love it. All of the power moves moons have been replaced with the power stars from Mario 64, and there's even a Mario 64 outfit, which is just awesome. Much like in Mario 64, in the Mushroom Kingdom there are a bunch of paintings that you can jump in that allow you to refight bosses from earlier in the game for additional power moons. However, the best part about this kingdom is the fact that you get to capture and take full control over Yoshi, which still to this day is so much fun. Water levels in Mario games are just in general pretty awful. In most water levels, Mario is usually hard to control and the Cheep Cheeps are really annoying enemies, but Mario Odyssey manages to make a huge water level that's known as the Lake Kingdom, and it makes it a really great water level. The colors and the soundtrack are really relaxing, and thanks to Mario's ability to capture enemies, you can actually control Cheep Cheeps, which makes navigating through the huge body of water pretty fun. Coming in at number 5, we have the Moon Kingdom. The concept of Mario being on the moon had so much potential, but Nintendo just wasted it. Controlling Mario on low gravity is really fun and oddly satisfying, all thanks to the additional movement options that Cappy brings to the game. But the kingdom itself is just so boring. It's basically just a flat piece of land, and the soundtrack just adds to the empty feel of the kingdom. When you're playing through the main story to get to Bowser, you have to go through a lava level that is pretty similar to the darker side, but I felt that it wasn't anywhere near as frustrating. The Wooded Kingdom is this huge mechanical forest that is so fun to navigate through because of the amount of paths there are that take you basically anywhere in the kingdom. I have the most fun in the Wooded Kingdom when I just teleport to the observation deck, which is the highest point in the kingdom, and just parkour down the kingdom, or use Glidon and just fly around. Something that makes this kingdom pretty unique is the Deep Woods, which is kind of like an underworld for the kingdom. The only way you can get to the Deep Woods is through falling off the side of the kingdom, and I, like most people, accidentally fell off the side of the kingdom, but instead of dying, you actually end up in this really dark and eerie forest, and to top it all off, there is a dinosaur lurking in the dark trying to kill you, which is just lovely. Moving on to number 3, we have the Seaside Kingdom. Visually, this kingdom is gorgeous, the atmosphere it creates is amazing, and the soundtrack does a great job at just making it feel so relaxing. The kingdom is basically just a huge beach, and roaming around the kingdom is really fun for 2 main reasons, with the first being because of these flowers that you can use that make Mario run really fast and even allow him to run on water, and the second reason is because of these purple squid things you control that can shoot water out of their butts and make you just go really high into the air and go really fast along the water. Something I absolutely hate about this kingdom though is the volleyball challenge that you have to do to get 2 power moons, and it's just really hard and annoying, but other than that, the Seaside Kingdom is an absolute joy. Everything about the Metro Kingdom is just so fun, from the boss battle against a huge centipede to controlling a remote control car and just about everything in between. There is just so much fun things to do here, and so I'm going to attempt to list everything, so here goes. You can do parkour around the city, climb up buildings by using literal forks, control remote control cars, play through 1-1 from the original Super Mario Bros, ride a motorbike, jump rope, defeat 2D Donkey Kong, become a tank and escape from a T-Rex on a motorbike. So yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had in the Metro Kingdom, and to top it all off, the soundtrack in this kingdom is just amazing and just brings the city to life. Now, I love food, and I love Mario games, so seeing as the Luncheon Kingdom is basically just a huge Mario level based solely on food, I think is just perfect. My favourite thing about the Luncheon Kingdom is the boss fight you do when you're beating the story. You have to defeat a huge chicken, but instead of controlling Mario, you're controlling a lava bubble. It just makes for such a fun and unique boss fight, and I think it's definitely one of the best boss fights in the game. The natives in this kingdom are forks, and they're really fun to control, as when you capture one, you can just fling yourself in any direction you like, which makes for a cool way to move around the kingdom. While we're on the topic of moving around the kingdom, I kind of have to talk about the fire bubbles, as these little guys allow you to swim through the hot stew that surrounds the mainland of the kingdom. The platforming part of this kingdom where you're having to make your way up a mountain is great, as it offers a challenge but isn't incredibly difficult. And also I nearly forgot to mention that you can become and control a literal slab of meat. I don't know why you can become a slab of meat, or why the developers decided to add a playable slab of meat to the game, but they did, and it's just wonderful. And yeah, that's just about it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more Nintendo content, and yeah, that's just about it. So thanks for watching.